64 yards is such a long field goal. And to me, would I have sent my kicker out to kick a 64-yard field goal, or the quarterback I just traded for paid the man $256 million. He's playing his former team in their stadium, right? They're in Seattle. His former team, 4th and 5. You gotta let Russ cook. Welcome back to another episode of For the Love of the Game, the podcast. Week 1 of the NFL season has officially ended. So today we'll have week 1 storyline as well as a little bit of overreactions. And if you stick around to the end, I will give my top 3 performers of the week, of week 1 at least, that is. As always though, man, be sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and leave in the comments if your team started 1-0. Okay. First things first though, man, we got the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs look like the Chiefs, right? You know, offseason moves. Tyreek Hill heads to Miami. Questions about what do they do with their receiving core. They don't have another deep hill threat. They don't have another Tyreek Hill. How good is Pat Mahomes really? Could he do this without Tyreek Hill? All of that. 488 total yards for the Chiefs. 128 rushing yards for the Chiefs. They had 9 different receivers catch a pass. Pat Mahomes goes 30 for 39, 360 yards, 5 touchdowns, right? All signs are pointing towards this Chiefs team is going to be the same Chiefs team that they've been for the past 4 or 5 seasons. Looks like the AFC is going to run through them. But on the flip side, you got to understand that they played the Cardinals, you know? So the Cardinals, they weren't just like the regular Cardinals, you know what I mean? They were beat up a little bit. Obviously, offensively, didn't have DeAndre Hopkins. Defensively, they missed J.J. Watt. They missed one of their starting corners, right? So, you know, they already weren't a good enough team to compete with this Chiefs team. But for the Chiefs to come out on opening week and score 44 points, right, with no Tyreek Hill, and everybody knows a lot to prove. You got the picture of Pat throwing up the 4. He had 4 touchdowns. I mean, you know, that's what I'm saying. All signs are pointing towards the Chiefs heading back to the Super Bowl. One thing I like about the Tyreek Hill move, you know, that a lot of people may not have put into context, is that Tyreek Hill, right, you know, when he was on the field, it forced defenses to play 20, 25 yards off the ball, right? The last season, Pat had a high, you know, it wasn't that high, but it was high for Pat, a high number of interceptions. Remember, the play that lost the Chiefs the game in the AFC Championship was a deep ball to Tyreek Hill on a 2 deep high safety, right? So the teams were able to play 25 yards off the ball and say, hey, beat us everything in front of you. We're going to take the top off and make sure Tyreek Hill don't get behind us, and we feel pretty comfortable winning like that. You move Tyreek Hill to the Dolphins. You bring in Juju Smith. You bring in Marquez Valdez-Scantling. You bring in the rookie Sky Moore, right? And then you add that with McCole Hardman. You add that with Clyde. You already have Travis. Now it is a more balanced attack. So, like, the defense, you got to go back to playing normal football. We've seen 9 incompletions and 360 yards, 5 touchdowns from Pat. Because until McCole Hardman fills in for Tyreek Hill and becomes that deep threat, all the teams are going to have to play regular football in a way. There's not going to be much to, you know, deep safeties over the top. Travis Kelce is going to have an outstanding year. You was able to see that. He had a receiving touchdown. He's going to have an outstanding year because until Pat fully trusts those guys, I'm not saying he doesn't yet, but until he fully trusts those guys, the one reliable guy he has on that team is 87, Travis Kelce. So him and Travis are going to take their connection to the highest level, to the next level. But a good test for them will be on Thursday. You know, they got the Chargers coming up on Thursday at Kansas City. And I think that'll be more of a test. You know, the Chargers went out loaded up on defense. So as far as matching the Chiefs up with top talent who are also Super Bowl contenders, we'll be able to see a little bit of that week 2. Again, it's week 2, so you're not going to see too much of it, but it'll be better than the talent that they played against Arizona. You know, so Chiefs look dominant. Shout out to Chiefs. Man, let's head over to the NFC. Philly. Right? Philly was going to be one of the top teams offensively, right? Miles Sanders in the backfield, Jalen Hurts, of course, Zach Ertz, A.J. Brown, new addition, Devontae Smith. offensively, they have about everything you can want offensively, right? They got the quarterback, the mobile quarterback. They got the running back. They got the 2 receivers. Pretty good tight end out there. They're looking good. And then, of course, we're going to get to it later, but you factor in what just happened to Dak, right? And then you factor in that it's the Eagles, the Cowboys, the Giants. And I got the Eagles taking the NFC East, just because Dak is out for the Cowboys, so that puts a little damper on their season. They can't, Dak was fine, but even with Dak, they were like iffy. Now you take away their starting quarterback and you put in the backup quarterback on that team, I don't believe it. But not only are they gonna win the division, AJ Brown, I'm looking at AJ Brown to have a breakout season. Also great for fantasy. I do fantasy. I'm not the biggest on fantasy, so that's not really what you're going to get on this podcast unless it's requested. But I think he'll have a big year for fantasy as well. But football, period, right? A.J. Brown is due in for a breakout season because I'm looking at A.J. Brown week 1 against the Lions, right? So, again, slight overreactions as I mentioned earlier. But you're looking at A.J. Brown and it's like, I'm looking at A.J. Brown to be that, like, Deebo Samuel role. You know what I mean? Where you can jet sweep him, hand it to him out the backfield, slants, go balls. Even if you want to come out in Wildcat, I feel like he could be a quarterback. I feel like we're going to see that from A.J. Brown this year. I was giving Deebo the nod over A.J. Brown just simply for that reason, that like A.J. wasn't used as much as Deebo Samuel was. But this year, in watching that first game, A.J. Brown had 10 receptions, 155 yards in his debut. He didn't have a touchdown, but he had multiple big plays, And a good sign of a great quarterback or a good developing quarterback is that he knows where his number 1 is, He knows where his best receivers are. So watching Jalen Hurts, 3rd and 6, whatever it may be, when you need to move the chains, when you need a play, watching him go to A.J. Brown, it was amazing. They clicking already. At one point, Jalen Hurts has 74 yards. And then A.J. Brown had 58 receiving yards, right? So A.J. Brown had 58 of those 74 yards Jalen Hurts had. Now, you factor that in, and now still finding out where Devontae Smith fits, right? He's still going to be a reliable weapon. They got the backfield. I really like the Eagles going somewhere like 10-7, 11-6. That's a real, true, capable ceiling for the Eagles because, they got it. Defensively, they were rolling. No, they let up a little bit. They were up like 31-14 on the Lions. That game ended up finishing 38-35. So you would like to see them close that out a little better. But it's week 1. That's going to happen. But you like what you got from A.J. Brown. You like what you got from Jalen Hurts. On to the Chargers, man. Simple and plain, dog. The Chargers defense finally helped out Justin Herbert. That has been this team's Achilles heel for the past 2 to 3 seasons is that Herbert is amazing. You know what I'm saying? Jay Herbo's amazing. He's going to do what it do. Moral is he has to have his teammates. He has to have other guys, especially on the opposite side of the ball and him on defense, be able to like clutch, be able to be clutch like he is. Herbert can march you down the field. He can make every throw on the field, right? He can extend the play. He can do anything offensively. But if he does all that and then they score in the offense, the other team's offense comes out, minute and a half, whatever, 2 minutes left. They march down, they score, they win. That defense failed Justin Herbert, right? Opening week 1 against the Raiders, the defense could have failed Herbert because Herbert was rolling. In about the last 3 to 4 possessions, he stalled out. Now, rather Oakland's defense picked up, whatever it may have been, he stalled out and he wasn't having that same effect on the game that he was. But in the last 2 years, the Chargers have lost 13 games decided by a touchdown or less, right? So rather, did Justin Herbert not march down and get the job done, which is very rare. Most of the times he marches down, he gets it done, and then the defense falls apart on the back end. So 13 games in the last 2 years that they lost by a touchdown or less. They win this game week 1 against the Raiders 19-24. That's a 5-point victory. Could have easily turned into a 2-3 point loss. But that defense, 6 sacks, 3 interceptions for the Chargers, 3 from the newcomer Khalil Mack alone. Then you flip it back over to the offense, right? It got to be a total team effort. 0 turnovers for Justin Herbert. No turnovers from Herbert, right? They also were without J.C. Jackson. And I think when you look at it, the Chargers, obviously, you could tell in the offseason, they obviously felt like the defense was their Achilles heel. The defense was the thing not allowing them to get to the championship. They go out, right? They pick up J.C. Jackson. They pick up Joseph Day from the Rams. Of course, Khalil Mack. And then, as I always say, you pair them with Asante Samuel Jr., Derwin James, Joey Bosa, right? You pair the newcomers with guys you already have, and you could see them building. This was a good win for them because, we all know how last year ended against the Rams, right? The deciding game to go to the playoffs. They lose by 3, heartbreak. They come out this week. It's an iffy game. They could possibly lose, but all the money that you invested on that defense, it came to show week 1. Backs against the wall. Oakland has the ball on the final drive. They have a chance to win. That defense steps up. And again, for the Chargers, man, a team who has been knocking on the door in a way, but not so much, but they've been knocking on the door in a way just as far as being a good team, knowing that okay, let's put these steps in place, right? And year after year, let's get better. They're at the point now where anything less than the Super Bowl for the Chargers is a bust, right? They're one of those teams in the AFC. You put them up there with the Chiefs, the Bengals, the Bills. We don't know about the Broncos, we don't know about the Raiders, but you put them up there with those kind of caliber teams because of the talent they have. As I said earlier when I was talking about the Chiefs, they played the Chiefs week 2. Week 2, they play again in week 11, I think it is, but week 2 is not the biggest deal breaker, but I'm interested to see that defense, when you play against top talent. I'm interested to see as the year goes on, but week 1, slight overreaction, but they got one of the scariest defenses in the league, and that might not even be an overreaction, honestly. Back over to the NFC, switching gears a lot, hopping back over to the NFC. The Saints. Are the Saints back to being contenders? The Saints ain't been the same since they lost to the Rams on that PI call, right? But that team was loaded. You talk about Mike Thomas, you talk about Drew Brees, you talk about Alvin Kamara, you talk about Mark Ingram, and then, of course, defensively, Cam Jordan, Lattimore, just everybody. They were loaded, right? But I feel like ever since that year, they've had bad luck, whatever you want to call it, but they haven't been that same team. I'm not sure if they are, but you got Jameis, a younger, more agile quarterback. You got Alvin Kamara, but not only do you have Alvin Kamara, you got his running horse, one of his best guys, Mark Ingram, right? Two-headed monster in the backfield. Not only do you have Michael Thomas, but now you have Jarvis Landry. And not only do you have Michael Thomas and Jarvis Landry, you got the rookie Chris Olave they just drafted. Defensively, you pick up Tyrann Mathieu. So this team is as well-rounded as they've been since those prime years where they were going 13-3 just 3 to 4 years ago. And they come out week 1, right? They're starting slow because I didn't watch the game, but I'm definitely checking the score. And they're down 16 points in the fourth. So they score 17 fourth quarter points. And Jameis Winston, in the fourth quarter alone, throws for 213 passing yards and 2 touchdowns in the fourth. Mike Thomas makes his debut. I think he had 5 catches, 53 yards, but he had 2 touchdowns. 2 big touchdowns. So momentum. You know what I'm saying? Momentum goes a long way in this league. And they come out not knowing what to expect. You got Jameis. Jameis is full of emotions. You never really know what you're going to get from Jameis, but he comes through in the biggest moments. I think that was a great building block because they don't want to lose to Atlanta. Atlanta's going to be a team who's going to struggle for some years to come, right? So the Saints, a team who has Super Bowl aspirations, you don't really want to be out here in a dogfight and much less losing to an Atlanta Falcons team who may not make the playoffs. You know what I mean? So a good start for the Saints. Staying in the NFC, but just not, staying on the good start tip, the Cowboys. Okay. And I gotta ask, like I said, week 1, we here for a little bit of overreactions, but are the Cowboys done as we know it? You know what I mean? Is it time for Dak and Zeke to split? You come out, they have their great first season together, get to the playoffs, they lose, they're young, they'll be back. Zeke gets suspended. Okay. Now we fast forward a couple more years. Dak gets hurt. So although Zeke is there, Dak gets hurt. We got weight/production problems with Zeke. We got Tony Pollard starting to get more reps. Zeke might be falling off. Now we come back this year. They got rid of Amari Cooper. They say CeeDee Lamb is our number one. Dak gets hurt. He has to get hand surgery. He's out 6 to 8 weeks. The Cowboys, I want to say it's like an ebbs and flow of ups and downs, but ever since that year where I think they lost to Pittsburgh in the playoffs, don't quote me. Nope, they did not, because Pittsburgh's in the AFC. Who did they lose to? Could have been the Saints. I don't remember, but they were 13-3, right? Dak and Zeke's rookie year. But ever since then, the Cowboys have just been on a downward spiral. And now you look at it, you gave up Amari Cooper, okay? So you already wonder how's this offense going to go. I understand CD is the number one option, but to me, it would have made more sense to give CeeDee Lamb the keys to the offense, right? But keep Amari Cooper. Because if CeeDee's your one, Amari Cooper's better than every number two corner in the NFL. Amari Cooper's better than every number two corner in the NFL. It does you no good, though, to say, hey, man, we see that we got something great in CD. Let's move CD to our number one, but let's get rid of our guy across the field who could demand attention from the defense also, right? So you get rid of Amari Cooper, and now everybody's like, well, all they got is CD. So let's worry about Zeke. You know, let's stack the box a little bit until Zeke pop off. He did have a good running game against the Bucs, I will say. But CeeDee Lamb, he had a couple drops. But more than anything, we play a good coach who can scheme well. They're going to take CeeDee Lamb out of the picture. And the question that I had leading into the season for the Cowboys is, where do you go when, let's say, the ground game ain't really rolling as much for Zeke, and your one receiver, CeeDee Lamb, is getting double teamed, or it's hard to get him the ball? Those were all the problems when Dak was a part of the offense. Dak is not even a part of the offense anymore. So it's like, you know, I don't know, man. They're done. I think that's why I said earlier, Philly wins the NFC East. And outside of their rookie year, man, Dak and Zeke have not had too much team success. You go look at Zeke's numbers, he's had great individual success, for sure. But team success, there hasn't been too much of that. So the question is like, what do you do, right? I don't know if you can this season. I don't know, because Dak is 6 to 8 weeks. We're in week one. We're going to have to see what happens. But by the time he comes back, what is your team's record? You know, is this team good enough? Is the backup good enough to even keep them at 500? You know, so I think after this, we're definitely going to hear the rumors, the whispers about, you know, who needs to leave, Dak or Zeke. And you know, I'll get into that later as week one. We don't need to go that far. Let's flip to their opponents, though, the Buccaneers. They look great in that season opener. You know, although it was 19-3, they look great in that season opener just because you got Tom coming back. You got him working in with Julio. You got Chris Godwin coming back off the ACL. He also went down with a hamstring injury. But you're just working out a lot of pieces, right? So I felt like the Bucs weren't super aggressive. But if that week one for the Buccaneers is the summary of the rest of the season, it is, let's bank on this defense, okay? Let's let playoff Lenny run hard. Let's get him anywhere from 70 to 100 yards every week, and let's let that set up the play action. You know, they did Julio on countless jet sweeps. Julio is you know what I'm saying, a little older. We ain't see Julio get no jet sweep in Tennessee. You know what I mean? So Julio playing with Tom Brady, I feel like if Julio can be a shade of his past, which we've seen him get a deep ball, you got to understand the little intricacies about Tom Brady. Who knows? Maybe Tom is putting Julio up with his trainer, right? Julio's a little older, so he's helping Julio manage his body a little better, you know? And then just seeing the game differently. And you know, well, everyone knows, especially, you know, I don't know. But you know that when you're playing for something, you play better and you play harder. So when you're playing with Tom, right, a dude who's looking to go to Super Bowl every single season, the minute you hop on Tom Brady's team, your play has to elevate. If it doesn't, you're going to stick out like a sore thumb. You know what I mean? So you can see Julio coming, and you already pair that with Mike Evans, right? And we seen Tom go to Mike Evans when he really needed to. Third downs, goal line, that's Mike Evans time. Everything in between that, from the 20 where you usually get the kickoff to about the 10, your own 10, right, to where you get into the red zone, that's all Julio. That's all Leonard Fournette. That's all Chris Godwin. That's all whoever. The minute you get in that red zone, Tom Brady looking at number 13, Mike Evans. So I love what they did, bro. I of course have faith in the Buccaneers. You know what I mean? I got faith in Tom Brady always. I know he could do it. But then you look at what Julio did week 1. Like I said at the beginning, we got a little bit of overreactions, but I'm giving Julio at least 400-yard games this year. You know what I mean? At least 4. We will check back in way later to see how this take progressed. But 4 100-yard games from Julio, and that's all they need for him to be successful. All right, man, winding down here. Rams versus Bills. Should we be worried about the Rams' loss? No. You know what I mean? Because one, that looked like a team who enjoyed their offseason of winning the Super Bowl, right? Didn't know if AD was coming back. He ended up coming back a little late. Like, no excuses, but week 1, after you just won a Super Bowl and y'all didn't have that big of a drop-off. Like, okay, you don't have Odell. You don't have Sony Michel. You don't have Von Miller, right? But Von Miller and Odell were mid-season pickups. Now, did the team turn when they got those players? Sure. But even without them, this team is still a team that can make it to the Super Bowl. So week 1 after you're fresh off a Super Bowl is not a big deal. Even if it was 31-10, even if Matthew Stafford did throw 3 interceptions, it's not a big deal. It's week 1. And also, you got to understand this. The Bills are coming off a heartbreaking loss to the Chiefs. The Bills, like the Chargers, another team I mentioned, who have just been putting the pieces in place, right? Year after year, year after year. The Bills are looking at this season like, yo, we're going to the Super Bowl or it's a bust. So when you look at the Bills, a team who are trying to go to the Super Bowl, matching up against the Rams, a team who just won a Super Bowl in this opening week, they had the little ring celebration, all that. The level of intensity is totally different. The Bills are coming out looking for blood. You know what I mean? They trying to come out and make a statement. The Rams want to win, but truthfully, I don't know how much they cared. I don't want to say they cared, but the sense of urgency, right, for the Bills was a lot higher than it was the Rams, and that's cool. The Rams will kick in for sure, you know. So week 1 loss for the Rams, lost by 21, 3 interceptions, Matthew Stafford, all that, not a big deal. Last game of week 1, Monday night, Seahawks versus Broncos. You know what I'm saying? Let's ride. You know, Russell Wilson's debut. But then, you know, the NFL, they got to get messy. He played the Seahawks week 1 in Seattle. They knew Seattle was going to be so loud. Man, they did that on purpose. But let me tell you this. Y'all know we don't have to talk about that whole game. We got to talk about that last drive. We got to talk about the clock management. That play ended with about 53 seconds left on the clock, right? There was about 53 seconds left on the clock when they had 3 timeouts. They had 3 timeouts. Okay, so there's a lot of things we can unpack. One, I heard he missed Sutton in the middle of the field on that 3rd and 14. I heard he missed Sutton. He would have had a first down. Cool. He didn't hit him. He hit the running back on the flats. But the running back does enough, right? He picks up 9 yards to set up a 4th and 5. At the point where it's 4th and 5, there's 50 seconds. So, I mean, week 1. So these are overreactions. Let's get that. But you're going to figure out later in the season, right? With 50 seconds, you're either going to know we're going to call a timeout and we're going to kick this field goal, or we're going to we're going to draw up a play for Russ. What you don't do is let that clock tick from 53 seconds all the way down to 21 seconds. 1 second left on the play clock, and then you call a timeout, right? Because not only did you waste 30 seconds, you still have 3 timeouts. So now you got your timeouts for nothing because you let all the time run out. You didn't use a timeout until the last possible second. And then on a 4th and 5, you trot your kicker out to kick a 64-yard field goal. Okay? Hey, kickers are talented, bro. Don't, you know what I'm saying? I'm not the guy. Kickers are talented. 64 yards is such a long field goal. And to me, would I have sent my kicker out to kick a 64-yard field goal, or the quarterback I just traded for paid the man $256 million. He's playing his former team in their stadium, right? They're in Seattle. His former team, 4th and 5. You got to let Russ cook. You know what I mean? You got to let Russ go for it on 4th and 5. And you win or you lose, but it falls on Russ. Russ, the ultimate team player, of course, he comes out later. He says, hey, I stand by the call. You know what I mean? That's what coach wanted to do. It's miscommunication. The coach come out, he say, looking back at it, we should have went for it. The field goal kicker come out and he says the designated spot to get to was the 46-yard line on the left hash. That's where they put the man. The kicker himself said it. He said, I just got to make that kick. Let's give him a little applause. It was a 64-yard kick, and he was only a little off. You know what I mean? He was a little to the left. But 4th and 5, you know, it's week 1. Like, the loss is not that big of a deal. So, to me, put the ball in Russ's hands. I did see a tweet from my homie. He said, let's all cut the crap. Like, we acting like it was such a bad play call. Russell Wilson in the Broncos offense didn't produce all night. You know, they didn't get the big 3rd down conversions, 4th down conversions, goal line conversions that they needed all night. What make you think with 20 seconds left, 4th and 5, that they was going to get it then? So, shout out that Seahawks defense. You know what I'm saying? Shout out Geno Smith. They wrote my man off. He ain't right back. Quote of the year. You know what I mean? But, you know, that's tough. But, you know, you got Russ saying, I believe in the coach's decision. You got the coach saying, looking back at it, we should have just let Russ go for it. You got the kicker saying, yo, they did what they were supposed to do. They got me to my ideal spot. I just missed the kick. It's week 1. You know, shout out Russ, man. You know, him and DK still did the jersey swap. You know, that's love, that's love, that's love. So that completes the week 1 storylines, overreactions, whatever you want to call them. Let's get to the performers of the week, right? The reason why this is not players of the week is because it could be a whole. It could be the Chiefs as a whole. It could be, you know, a team's defense. It could be a whole team, a team's offense, a team's special teams. It's performers. It's not players. But one, Saquon Barkley, all right, 18 carries, 164 yards, 194 total yards, 1 touchdown, a 2-point conversion to go ahead and win the game to complete the comeback against the Titans. And, you know, the reason why he's really on there is because you tear your ACL. You know what I mean? You break your ankle or whatever you did last season. They held him out for some games. So many question marks, right? He came out, he produced. Giants win. Number 2, Justin Jefferson. 9 receptions, 184 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's Randy Moss-like. You know what I'm saying? Yee. You know, hey. He said he was the best receiver in the league. All the offseason reports had him real high on the receivers list. I was the one that was like, is he really that guy? 9 receptions for 184, 2 tutties. You nothing less than that guy. Shout out Justin Jefferson. In the last one, number 3, I mentioned earlier, Pat Mahomes, 30 for 39, 360 yards, 5 touchdowns. They put up 44 in week 1. That may have been the most points scored in week 1. I'm not exactly sure, but I'm pretty sure that was the most points scored. And then we got a couple honorable mentions. The Pittsburgh Steelers defense, right? 7 sacks, 4 interceptions. Crazy game against the Bengals, and they're able to pull it out. Everybody get hurt. TJ Watt get hurt. All that. You know what I'm saying? Walk in your trap, take over your trap. If you watch they Instagram lives, you know what that's from. Honorable mention number 2, A.J. Brown. 10 receptions, 155 yards in his Eagles debut. I think when you are a primetime player and the team trades you, you know what I mean? You got to produce the same way he did. We could put Devontae Adams in that honorable mention as well. I think he had like 9 or 10 catches, 141 yards, a touchdown as well. He could fit that as well. But look, man, that is it for week 1. I will see y'all Saturday when we preview week 2 and we go over Thursday's Chiefs vs. Chargers game. As always, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I'll see y'all next episode. Peace.